And I actually think that visualization is a really important part of self-discovery because it gives you some insights into who you want to become. And maybe that's why you started the self-discovery journey in the first place, because maybe you feel like there must be something else out there. There must be something that makes me a little bit happier, right? At the end of the day, we are all on the quest for happiness. Do you consider yourself a high achiever? Smart, driven, highly successful? I am so excited to have you. My name is Julia Arndt, and I'm the host of the Stress Podcast. I will help you develop your stress resilience the same way you've developed your workplace superpowers. Learn peak performance tools to thrive at work and in your personal life. Let's get started. Hi, and welcome back to Stressed. I am your host, Julia Arndt, and I'm so excited that you and I are taking a moment today to sit down or maybe to walk and to move our bodies and to learn with each other. In this podcast, I teach you how to manage stress, build mindful productivity systems, and leadership tools to build a balanced life and a thriving career. So if you are here for the very first time, welcome to the Stress Podcast. If you have been listening to this podcast for a couple of years, I am just as equally as excited that you are here today and that we are taking some time together. Today, I want to talk with you about a really exciting topic because I think I've mentioned it in one of the previous podcast episodes. It came up as I was talking about the different topic. I was thinking this morning about the podcast episode that it was, but I don't remember anymore, which it doesn't matter at all. But in today's podcast episode, I want to talk with you about how to start your self-discovery journey. Something that I feel like I've talked a little bit here and there on my YouTube channel, but I've never actually taken the time on the podcast channel to talk about it. And I think it's a super important topic and something that you might have wondered and asked yourself about over the last maybe couple of years. Maybe it's been something more recent, maybe over the last weeks or months. You've asked yourself, how can I actually dive deeper into understanding myself and growing? Right? And doing things maybe differently than you have ever done before. So that's the topic that I want to talk with you about today. So get ready and get a cup of coffee or a tea. Maybe you're walking around. Maybe you're listening to this podcast in the car as you're driving somewhere. Get cozy, get comfortable. And before we jump into the podcast episode today, two quick announcements, two quick things that I'd love to mention to you. First of all, I'm still feeling actually super energized from this morning because I facilitated Plan Your Week with Julia, which is happening every Monday at 8 a.m. PST. And I had a couple of really wonderful participants in the call this morning that asked a lot of questions and shared a lot of challenges around time management, calendar management. We had one participant that had over 22 meetings today alone, and then the rest of her week looked very similar as well. So we talked a lot about setting expectations, taking action, being more proactive about time management, and that time management is like building a new muscle. It's a new habit that you're building, and it doesn't happen overnight, right? You know that you won't just do one workout and you're going to have all the amazing muscles and six packs in the world, but that it actually takes time and it takes repetition to build that habit and to also remind your body on how to do certain things, right? Or how to build that muscle in the long run. And so if you are curious to learn more about time management, calendar management, and if you are ready to actually take action, then I would love to see you there. This is a free call that I facilitate for 30 minutes every week in order to help you develop the next time management habit And also in a way, the next workplace superpower is what I wanted to say, what I already had on my mind as well. And the way to register for this meeting is in the show notes below. So make sure to check out that link, share it with a friend, bring a friend if you feel uncomfortable to come by yourself. You don't have to. I don't bite, and I'm very friendly, and the participants in the group and in the meetings are always really, really sweet as well. So I would love to have you there. And yeah, I hope to see you there. The other announcement that I want to make is that, as you may know or you may not know, which is why I'm saying it to you today, I am a corporate trainer and facilitator, and I am super, super passionate about mindful productivity, regulating your nervous system, burnout prevention, and just all the things stress management. And I've had some super, super interesting conversations over the last couple of weeks with new clients, with new corporate clients, on how to build resilience on their teams, how to navigate all of the changes that they're going through at the moment. And the answer is by regulating the nervous system. And if you're curious about that, if you are working at a company that is going through a lot of change and that is maybe struggling a little bit with burnout, maybe with employee retention, maybe with team collaboration, then I would love to hear from you. I would love to chat with you. Send me an email. Let's set up some time and let's chat. Because my goal is to influence and impact as many people as possible positively by teaching them how to manage their stress and regulate their nervous systems and create a life that they love. So that's all I wanted to share for now. But I would say let's now jump into today's podcast episode on how to start your self-discovery journey. Hey you, welcome back to the Stress Podcast and our today's episode on how to start your self-discovery journey. I already mentioned it in the intro. You might have a couple of questions. You might have wondered, maybe for years, maybe just very recently, how to actually go on this self-discovery journey. Maybe you've heard it through podcasts. Maybe you've heard people talk about it. Maybe it's just something that's been coming up for yourself. Maybe it's something that is becoming more and more clear for you. Maybe there's a voice inside you that is saying, hey, there's something more, there's something else. And let's explore that together. So I sat down as I was preparing for this podcast episode, and I was thinking a little bit about my own journey. My own self-discovery journey and how everything started. And I actually remember it pretty well. So I want to talk with you a little bit about how my self-discovery journey started. It started with my sister. And I feel like that's a little bit the story of my life, because my sister has always been a super, super strong influence on who I am and who I am becoming, because she is super smart and I'm always really inspired by her. She's always been a role model for me. And it really started with her self-discovery journey. And I do remember exactly when that started. It was about 7.5 years ago. And I know this so precisely because I know that her self-discovery journey started when she had her first baby, my little niece, Lena. And my sister was spending a lot of time nursing her and being at home and taking care of her. And she started listening to a podcast from a German spiritual coach named Laura Seiler. And my sister said to me, you have to listen to this woman. You have to listen to her. And similar to other situations in her and my life, at first I was like, I don't know, I don't really have the time to do this, but I eventually gave in and started listening to one of her podcasts. And at the beginning, everything was kind of foreign to me. I didn't really understand what she was talking about. I had never really reflected about certain things, but it kind of sparked my curiosity. And at the time, I was driving between the Bay Area, San Francisco, and Lake Tahoe every week for a couple of hours. So I was in my car. I had honestly nothing better to do than sit in my car and listen to podcasts. And I listened to all of that coach's podcasts. And it started to really make me think about my life, about who I am, about the reactions that I have. And yeah, it just started my own self-discovery journey in the sense that I exposed myself to new information. I reflected more on certain things that I had never reflected on before, or maybe subconsciously there was something there, but I never really dug deeper into those things. And yeah, and it's really beautiful, honestly, for me to reflect back on that journey, because this is the time when everything changed for me. And that was when I'm just thinking about it, but I think 29 years old, maybe 28 to 29 years old. And that's kind of when my self-discovery journey started. And that brings me to the first thing that I want to share with you today. So if you are asking yourself, how do I actually get started on my own self-discovery journey? What do I do? Well, you're already doing the right thing, because you're here, you're listening to this podcast, and you're exposing yourself to new information that you may have never thought about before. And that's super, super important when you're starting your self-discovery journey, because I think it's really important that you go with your heart and that you are really surrounding yourself with people, no matter if it is in your direct vicinity, right, in your direct environment, or more of a virtual environment, to learn new things and broaden your horizon. I actually just recorded another podcast episode that I published probably 3 or 4 weeks ago on who do you surround yourself with. So that's a really important podcast episode to listen to, I think, especially as you're going through your self-discovery journey, because the people that you surround yourself with are super, super important. And if you feel like today there might not be as many people in your direct environment that influence you positively, you can always surround yourself, luckily in today's world, with virtual people, with podcast guests, with podcast hosts, with books, with audiobooks, with people that you follow on social media. So all of these different things are really important, and that will kind of kickstart your self-discovery journey. So one thing is to ask yourself who you surround yourself with. I think what I did at that time as well, as I was sitting in my car driving to and from the Bay Area twice a week, every week for 3 years, was that I started to visualize a different life. And I actually think that visualization is a really important part of self-discovery, because it gives you maybe some insights into who you want to become. And maybe that's why you started the self-discovery journey in the first place, because maybe you feel like there must be something else out there. There must be something that makes me a little bit happier, right? At the end of the day, we are all on the quest for happiness. And so maybe you've never visualized before. So I want to give you a couple of questions that you can ask yourself in order to visualize the life that you've always wanted. Because I do believe that it is really important that you're visualizing, that you have a clear picture, because then it also will become much clearer for you what you have to do to get closer to that image. Okay. So the questions that I have for you are: what are you doing? Where are you living? Who are you with? And that is all related to your ideal self and lifestyle. And that can also help you clarify the goals and values that you have. So as I was sitting in my car driving to Tahoe every single weekend, I was visualizing a life that enabled me to be in Tahoe full time. If you have been listening to my podcast, you know that that was my biggest dream, and that's why everything happened. That's how everything started. And it's really special for me to think back to this time, because I know that during that time I was in a very tumultuous space. I felt unhappy. I felt burned out, which I didn't know that it was burnout, but I was burned out. I was unhappy, even though on the outside I had everything that everyone could probably just imagine, like a great job, great benefits, great salary. But I felt unfulfilled inside. I felt like it wasn't really fulfilling me anymore, the life that I was living. And so it was hard to live that life at the time. And I know that I had a ton of different questions and I didn't have answers to these questions. And so I started to go on this self-discovery journey. And I started to visualize a life where I would be in Tahoe full time, and where I would live here, where I would have a house here, and where I would just live a lifestyle that felt a lot more aligned with who I was and who I wanted to become, even more so, right? Someone that's outside in nature, that looks out in nature, that lives in an environment that's really quiet and calm. And that was really important for me. I'm super noise sensitive and I just felt like I felt like my nervous system could never rest. I felt like I was kind of constantly on, and that's why I felt a lot of anxiety. But I think there was also something to be said, of course, about the life that I was in at the time. And so the first step, as this goal and this vision and this life became more and more clear to me, I took the first very important step, which was I got a pre-approval for a loan. I found a real estate agent in Tahoe and I started looking at houses. And I did end up buying a house here in 2016. Is it 2016? 2018. In 2018, I bought a house and it was 2016. Oh my God. Time really flies by. It was in 2016 and it was literally 2 days before my 30th birthday that I signed my first house. And that was a huge step for me. That was a huge, huge step into the right direction of building a house. And that was the first step for me to get closer to my goals, to get closer to the life that I had envisioned. So visualization was almost manifesting. It was attracting the life that I dreamt of. And that's why visualization within the self-discovery journey is so, so important. So if you've never thought about this, and I'm sure you have, I'm sure there's this deep-seated dream within you, maybe you've never really dared to even think about or dream about, but it's so cool and so powerful when you create that space to actually do that. So do it. There is probably, I'm pretty sure, and I'll link some different videos in the show notes today, but I'm sure there is probably 1 or 2 videos on my YouTube channel that will help you to visualize, that will help you to create a little bit of that vision for your own beautiful life. So we already talked about who do you surround yourself with. We talked about visualizing. And an important part of that visualization, which were some questions that I already shared with you, is reflection and journaling. You know that I talk about journaling and reflection a lot because it is really, really powerful. And it is honestly, every time I do it, also so special to, first of all, taking the time to just invest that time in yourself, and how different you can feel and how much more clear you can feel or intentional you can feel with just 10 or 15 minutes of creating space to sit down and reflect on a couple of different things. So if you are just starting your self-discovery journey, or if you have been on your self-discovery journey and you want to dive a little bit deeper, here are a couple of reflection questions that can help you to either get started or to recalibrate and say, okay, where am I actually? What have I already achieved? And what do I want to do next? Where do I want to go next? And the questions are, what are your dreams? What are your goals? How does it make you feel when you think about these? This is the most important of all. Because the more you are aligned with your dreams and goals and your visions and your feelings, the things that make you excited, the more that is a sign for you to kind of go in that direction. The other journaling questions are, what are your weaknesses? What are your strengths? And what are you interested in? And as I was reflecting on this podcast episode and preparing it for you, there was another example coming up for me that I wanted to share with you. Over the last 12 years, I've done a lot of self-development. I was always really interested in self-development. And honestly, for the first 5 years, I didn't really know why I was doing certain things. I just did them because it was interesting to me. I didn't think I was enlightened. I wasn't very spiritual yet at that time. I wasn't aware of what self-discovery was. I just followed my heart, honestly. So the first thing that came to my mind as I was writing some notes on our show today was my sports psychology diploma that I did when I lived in Ireland in 2011. And a lot of people at the time asked me, why are you doing this? And honestly, I can't even remember anymore how I got to the idea to sign up for this class. But it was something that I was interested in. I was truly fascinated by athletes and by sports and by the psychology behind it, what makes people tick the way they do or the way they are, and why do they do the things they do. And so I signed up for this course, and people always asked me, why are you doing this? And why are you interested in this? And I said, I'm just interested. I don't know. I just want to learn more about this. And then once I finished and completed that, I actually became a certified personal trainer, a gym instructor, and I did a certification on that. And I also, again, just found it really interesting to spend my time on myself and to learn and to spend my time wisely. And then I moved to California in 2014. And then I got into yoga. It must have had something to do maybe with that podcast that I started listening to by that German coach that I mentioned. But yeah, yoga started to become my escape. I didn't know at the time that it actually helped me to regulate my nervous system, and that's why it made me feel so good, because it created some space for me to breathe and to sit with my thoughts, because yoga is not just about stretching or exercise. It's so much more than that. And it just made me feel good. Again, I couldn't really put a finger on it why I was doing that, but it made me feel really good. So I got super into yoga. And then I wanted to become a certified yoga teacher, which I did. I have 400 hours or 450 hours of yoga teacher training certification. And why did I do that? I don't know. It wasn't that I was thinking, oh, I'm going to become a yoga teacher and teach classes. It wasn't like that either when I did that gym instructor certification. I just generally was curious about learning more about it. And it's so funny because now looking back at all of these different things that I did, they all come together. At the time, it didn't make any sense. I just followed my interest. And today I know it all made me the person that I am today, right? With all of the knowledge that I have, no matter if it is the physical body or the psychological body, right? The mind and the spirit. And I can bring all of these experiences into my coaching and into my programs and into nervous system regulation. So follow what you are interested in, because sometimes the question, what are your dreams or what are your goals, is too heavy for you right now. And that's totally okay. Maybe you don't have an answer on that. And then just follow what you're interested in, what sparks you joy. Maybe it's photography. It doesn't have to be anything related to your job, or maybe it is all related to your job. It doesn't matter. As long as it sparks some inner joy and excitement, then that's the thing to go after. All right. So, 3 things so far. We talked about who do you surround yourself with, visualization and reflection, and following your interests, following what you are interested in. There is, of course, something to be said as you are starting your self-discovery journey to talk to a therapist or a coach. Maybe you would like to have some help, and then a coach or a therapist can be a super great way to get that started, to help you sort through your thoughts and help you build more awareness and help you to also stay accountable to some of the goals that you're starting to set. So talking to a therapist or coach can be super, super powerful. My experience after 4.5 years of coaching is that usually people come to me that have already started their self-discovery journey and that have built some sort of awareness. They are understanding who they are more and more. They understand their strengths and their weaknesses. Sometimes they don't know how to get over the weaknesses or how they can get out of negative thought spirals or negative action cycles or negative patterns and habits, right? And that's what I help with. So talking to a coach or therapist on your self-discovery journey can be a really powerful thing. And then the almost last thing that I want to mention to you today in this podcast episode is something that I probably say almost every single time I record a podcast episode for you. And it is the same as well as you're starting your self-discovery journey. And it is to take small mindful actions, to start taking small mindful actions. And you already did, because you are already listening to this podcast episode. So you have already started taking action. And I want you to sit with that and to celebrate that and to pat yourself a little bit on your shoulder and say, hey, you are taking the time to invest in yourself. And that's such a special gift and such a cool thing to do, because your life is going to turn out so much better than you've ever imagined, because you are starting to invest in yourself. You're starting to invest time, energy, and resources in yourself to become a better version of yourself, to become a better human being. And so I already talked about the question around what interests you, what brings you joy. So like I said, it doesn't always have to be a clear answer around what is that thing going to do to help you in the future. Maybe you don't have an answer to that. Maybe your only answer is, I'm just enjoying this right now. Maybe, you're doing a yoga teacher training certification and it allows you to travel, and it allows you to meet new people and to open yourself up to new perspectives and opinions and ideas and cultures, right? Then that's amazing. Then do that, right? Maybe you're really interested in doing a coach certification. I just had a friend who started a health coach certification because she's really interested in that field. She doesn't really know yet what she's going to do with it afterwards, but she started to invest time in herself. And it's so beautiful. So take small actions. Think about what is one thing maybe that's now coming up for you as you've been listening to this podcast episode for the last 20, 30 minutes. Maybe you think, that sounds so cool. I've always wanted to do a course, whatever it is, a gym instructor course, as a diploma, an evening diploma in psychology. Maybe it is an art class, a photography class. Maybe it is a new language. Maybe it is a new whatever it is. Really, there's no limits to your life. Just take action. Promise me that you will take action and you're going to start looking into that program or that certification, or you're going to start doing some research on what is even available in your area. All right. And then, of course, finally, the last kind of step, if you want to call it that way, or the last thought that I want to share with you today in this podcast episode is be patient and love the journey. Self-discovery is a journey that you're embarking on that will last your whole life. It will last your whole life. If you are committing to investing in yourself, it will last your whole life. And it's not that 12 months out of the year, 365 days, you're going to actively and proactively invest in yourself. There will be peaks and valleys. There will be times where you're so excited about all the things that you're listening to, all the books and podcasts, and you're reading all the books and articles and newspapers, and you're doing all the courses and certifications. And then you're feeling super exhausted, and maybe there's something else going on in your life. And then that experience that you just have, just that life experience, will bring you forward, actually, even though it might not always feel this way. Just little disclaimer, it might not always feel like you're making progress, but it will bring you to the next point where you invest in yourself again. And that's been my experience for the last 7.5 years, where sometimes I needed all of the self-development tools and courses and insights so much in order to help myself through difficult times and difficult questions that I had. And then sometimes I just enjoyed my life and I just lived my life. And of course, this profession that I have chosen, I don't want to use the word force, but it kind of forces me to sit down and reflect, right? It forces me to sit down and record podcast episodes and record YouTube videos and think about new topics that I want to share with you. But I love that. I don't love it 100% all of the time, because sometimes I'm just tired and maybe sometimes I don't feel super inspired. But as you have probably noticed, I've been feeling very inspired. That's why I have been sitting down in front of my computer and in front of my microphone, recording these single individual podcast episodes for you. I haven't done many interviews lately because I just want to talk to you myself. I'm a little bit selfish at the moment, and I've just been enjoying so much talking to you and sharing with you the experiences that I've had in my life in order to help you embark on your own journey. So enjoy that journey. It is a lifelong gift and it is totally worth it. And it will help you so much also to regulate your nervous system, to manage your stress levels, because there will be answers that come to you that will help you to take the next conscious, intentional step in the right direction. Trust that, my friend. Trust that help is always there. Progress is always there. Change is always there. Sometimes it's good to change. Sometimes it's painful change. But in all of those are beautiful learnings and growth opportunities. And as long as you see it as that, you'll live a fantastic life. Yeah, that's all I wanted to share with you today. Thank you so much for listening to today's podcast episode. And if you've enjoyed this podcast episode and you are thinking of a friend or a sister or brother or other family member that you feel like would really benefit from listening to this information, I would really appreciate it if you would share this podcast episode with them. I would love to say hi to you on Instagram. Come by, join Julia Arndt Coaching, and follow me, follow my daily journey, follow inspiration and all of the different content that I publish for you every single week. And yeah, thank you. Thank you for being here. I hope to hear you in the next podcast episode. Take good care of yourself and talk to you soon.